Hello everybody and welcome to a Deck Tech on the Constructive Criticism YouTube channel. I'm Spencer, host of Constructive Criticism and producer of Limited Time Only and Common Knowledge, podcast about getting better at Magic the Gathering. I'm so excited to talk to you guys this week. So, for those who know, I'm a huge ramp lover. I've tried green-red ramp, 4-color ramp, all kinds of ramp decks, and this week at the Pro Tour there was 3 people who did well with a green-black ramp list. 2 of them were pretty close to each other. One of them is close to a Japanese players list, or one of them being a Japanese players list, I guess I should say. And kind of looking over the format and like what they were trying to do, I want to talk about like how I would make a little bit of changes and kind of combine what they're doing, but also be a little bit different. It's interesting. I think that this format is very Goblin Chain Whirler focused, but because of that, I do think that you can get edges in different places. So, with that being said, I want to talk about green-black ramp, and one of the main reasons that I want to talk about this is just because of the RPTQ. So, if you're going to the RPTQ, you're really focused on Unified Standard. And that means you only have so many slots for so many different decks. With blue-white and mono-red and red-black being some of the best decks, and green-black snake and things like that, if there is innovation, it is, and that innovation is good for you, you should be trying to play that innovation. And I actually do think that green-black ramp is in a good spot for innovation. So with that being said, I want to talk to you about like where my starting point for green-black ramp is for this RPTQ. So the first thing that we have is 2 Carnage Tyrant. So Carnage Tyrant is super powerful. It's good against unlicensed integration, it's good against the control decks, and for a lot of the point of this RPTQ, that's really all you need. And even against green black snake and things like that, it's still really good. So I never thought I'd say this, but you probably want main deck Carnage Tyrant in your ramp decks at this point. It's good against the 3 best strategies that people are going to bring. So like, let's talk about the default 3 best decks in Standard. Red-based aggro, blue-white-based control, green-black snake. Now, you could argue that mono-green is the default best green deck, right? Or green-black stompy, or green-blue stompy. But Carnage Tyrant is good against all of those decks, and that's a huge inclusion. The next thing that I want to talk about is the ramp spells, before we get into the Planeswalker stuff. We have 4 Gift of Paradise and 4 Grow from Ashes in this list. Now, this is very different than the Japanese list. This is very different from the other lists. But I think that Grow from Ashes is really important. The reason I think it's really important is because of the way that this deck wins and loses games. Grow from Ashes allows you to progress your game plan as ramping while you're playing other spells. And the spells that it lets you play are 2 Cast Down, 1 Dissenter's Deliverance, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Duress, and depending on where you're at in your game, 1 Never Return. It's pretty unlikely that you'll get to play your Vraska's Contempts that you have 4 of. But you could end up playing other things, right? So a really good example of, other things you could play is like your 1 of Arguel's Bloodfast, which I was really confused by in this deck until I played against it on Moto. So I got the chance to play against green-black ramp on Moto, and the deck loves Arguel's Bloodfast for a few reasons. One is because you play 4 Hour of Promise that 80% of the time get you tokens. And because of that, you get to block with your tokens, gain life, and draw cards, and just do so much from that Arguel's Bloodfast. Plus you have extra life from your Gift of Paradise, plus you have the best removal in Fatal Pushing of Vraska's Contempt, plus a couple of cast downs to catch up. And then you have other things that make you tokens. And those are our Planeswalkers. So we have 2 Karn, 1 Nissa Vital Force, and 3 Vraska Relic Seeker. And you might be thinking to yourself, this is a lot of Planeswalkers. But the truth is that that's actually the reason to play green-black over those 4-color decks, right? Those 4-color decks try to include lots of weird cards and different things like that. I think that one of the huge benefits that this deck has is that all of its cards deal with permanents, right? So you look at Vraska, it's got 3 Vraskas deal with enchantments and things like that. It's got Never Return and Vraska's Contempt to deal with Planeswalkers. It's got Cast Down and Fatal Push as cheap removal. It's got Never Return as kind of in the middle, plus it deals with graveyards. The deck is kind of well-rounded, sorry, I can't talk right now, in the fact that it deals with so many different things. And then it plays 25 lands. It plays 1 Arch, it plays 4 Blooming Marsh, it plays 1 Evolving Wilds, 1 Field of Ruin, 3 Forests, 3 Hashep Oasis, 3 Ifnir Deadlands, 1 Scavenger Grounds, 4 Swamp, and 4 Woodland Cemetery. So it's got this really clean mana base where most of your lands are going to play untapped. You know, outside of Evolving Wilds, you actually just don't have a tap land. Everything else can and probably should come into play untapped, which allows you to really leverage things. Even if your Woodland Cemeteries are coming to play tapped, that's fine because you have Fatal Push to kind of clean up the mess. In your sideboard, you have 1 Carnage Tyrant, 4 Glint-Sleeve Siphoner, 1 Thrashing Brontodon, 2 Walking Ballista, 2 Doomfall, 2 more Duress, and 3 Yahenni's Expertise. This sideboard is a very clean sideboard, as I like to call it. It just is fixing your problems in certain matchups, bringing in things that might be good or bad for you in certain matchups, and changing your matchups accordingly. You know, you have 4 Fatal Push that are really bad against control. Well, and then 2 Cast Downs. What do? How about you bring in 2 Doomfall and 4 Glint-Sleeve Siphoner? Maybe you have other cards that are bad. Maybe you don't want that Never Return, or maybe you don't want that 2 of those Vraskas Contempt. Well, you got those Duresses. Against aggro, you got these 3 Yahenni's Expertise. Well, what's bad against aggro in your deck? Yeah, you probably don't need this Arguel's Bloodfast. You probably don't need this Nissa. And it kind of just switches things out. It's a very clean sideboard and tells you almost immediately, like, what's my good cards, what's my bad cards, and fixes it for you. This is a deck that I really do think has a good shot of changing the metagame for the RPTQ specifically, and a deck that I think that you should highly consider. Please leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I'm really excited about it. I'm biased. I love ramp decks, but this is a starting point for a few of the different types of decks that we might consider playing on our team for the RPTQ. Thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys all next week.